what up? Welcome back to Comic Book Movie Spoiler Reviews with your boy Diesel Time for Rasqache Art Media. Today we're talking about Thor Ragnorak. Now, admittedly, I'm not a big fan of swords and sandals, Dungeons and Dragons, Kings and Queens, anything too Shakespearean or Lords of the Ringsy. And the first two Thor films kind of fall into this category. But for me, this new one just busts way the hell out of it. Now before we get into the meat of the review, I just want to get some technical things out of the way real quick. So the music, not the best part of the movie, but it was simple and effective. It tied together some of the previous Marvel and Thor movie themes, and then boom, of course, Led Zeppelin. You got that rock and roll attitude that the movie had, that the score, you know, dun, 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 you can't do that. So the Led Zeppelin really banged that home and tied together the opening battle scene and final battle scene. And I thought the visual effects, the fight choreography were all absolutely stunning. The costume design, and overall the aesthetics of the planet of Sakaar, you really felt that this was a real place. The use of the eccentric patterns had this signature look about it, the bright colors, the recycled material. It all felt like a actual place that is just sucking in this trash and saying, oh, I like this, oh, I like that, let's use that. Now let's talk about some of our characters, because that's what we all love about these movies, right? First, gotta give a quick shout out to Karl. Dude looked yoked to the gills, and he only had a few lines but was able to convey this character's inner struggle with the use of subtle facial expressions. Dude is mad talented. He went from hunting down and abandoning his people and having this fearful survival instinct that led him to do things that he wasn't proud of, but was able to redeem himself and sacrifice himself to save the Asgardians, and had that big fun moment with the machine guns. Ultimately taken out by Hela, who he was serving, so that was a great story arc. Next, bringing out one of the big guns, oh boy, it's Jeff Goldblum. My man was just born to play this character. All he had to do was put on the robes, say the lines, and just be himself. I'm glad that in the post-credit scene we saw dude survive the revolution, so hopefully we get to see him interact with Benicio del Toro's Collector's character, because we know they're bruh-bruhs. So maybe Infinity War, maybe Guardians 3, who knows, but we'll definitely love to see Jeff Goldblum pop back up. Speaking of big guns, Hulk smash. I enjoyed how they were able to bring him into the story while picking up from where we last saw him in Avengers 2. His teenage-like attitude and toddler-like tantrums were hilarious, and they played well off of Bruce Banner's softer nature. I thought Mark Ruffalo did a great job of playing both sides of the coin and was able to do a lot as the big green monster with only a limited amount of screen time. Now let's talk about this transformation moment, because this was a big highlight for me. I thought it reminded me a lot of Dr. Manhattan leaving the woman he loves to go to Mars. At the sight of Black Widow, all of a sudden he has to begin coming to terms with the fact that he's playing out this other fantasy on this other world, but really he's just running from his problems, and in order to redeem himself and continue his life, he's got to get back to Earth, and he's got to save everyone, and he's got to be back with the Avengers. He can't run. So big ups to Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk. We also saw the return of Idris Elba as Heimdall. Previously, Marvel hasn't really given him much to do in these movies. I'm not sure they realized what a talent they had picked up, but this time they took full advantage, gave him things to do. So big ups to Marvel, finally recognizing, oh boy. Also returning to the screen, Tom Hiddleston, Loki, funny and mischievous as ever with that dark twist. We got to see one of the more complex depictions of this character, and we continued his struggle with his family ties and Asgard being his home, but also his deep need to always take his own path no matter the cost. We also got some of the best comedic moments out of Tom Hiddleston throughout the movie, from "I've been falling for half an hour" to "Your savior has arrived." And of course, we gotta mention the ladies. Tessa Thompson was magnificent as Valkyrie. She played a strong character throughout the movie, but it wasn't until the third act that she gets to play a courageous character. And I love the way they used her Asgardian origin to tie in Thor's arrival in Sakaar and Hela's arrival in Asgard. And speaking of Hela, oh my god, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, Cate Blanchett was mesmerizing as Hela. Every moment she was on screen, even when she's not speaking, she's menacing and terrifying and has this commanding presence. As an audience member, you have no idea if they can even hurt her. How are the heroes ever going to take her down? And ultimately, it takes sacrificing Asgard. It takes a King Kong-sized demon stabbing her with a giant sword and blowing the whole place up in order to stop her. Kill her? We don't know. But stop her for now. Last and certainly not least, the son of Odin, the god of thunder, the mighty Thor of Asgard, Chris Hemsworth was electric this time around as Thor. I mean, he was perfectly cast right from the beginning, obviously, but through 6 years of practice and multiple appearances, dude is finally just hitting his stride like it's nothing. They had this campy approach to the humor in the beginning. That was fine for then, but this is now. And they're ramping up and just hitting fastballs out the park with this dude. And not just the humor, the responsibility and the heroic aspects of Thor. Dude truly stepped his game up in this movie. Man, bravo, Chris Hemsworth. You're the freaking god of thunder, man. We believe you. Alright, so those were our characters. Let's wrap this thing up and just talk about some of the bigger brushstrokes of this movie. I thought it was the perfect mix of big action, dark themes, and witty humor. And that's all thanks to the direction and vision of my man Taika Waititi. Homeboy was not afraid of creating repercussions or damage that could not be undone in the Marvel Universe. Thor loses his eye, he loses his hammer Mjolnir, and he loses his home, the gold-plated kingdom of Asgard. Not to mention the death of Odin, the Warriors 3, and who knows how many common folk in the palace guards. I mean, Hela just wiped them all out. I'd love to have been there for some of the conversations between Kevin Feige and Taika Waititi as they just decided how much destruction can we cram into this one little film that no one will see coming. I mean, Hela just takes so many people out, so many repercussions in this movie. I like that they were able to take those risks, because that's one of the big complaints you get from the Marvel Universe. No one ever dies. Well, in this movie, almost everyone except for a tiny group of people that can fit on this spaceship gets wiped out. In Asgard, no less. You'd think that's the protected land. As far as the humor, the first 5 or 10 jokes did not land with me, and I was starting to worry because I had heard this was such a funny movie. But as soon as we get to Sakaar and Valkyrie falls off her own ship, man, I was starting to laugh out loud in the theater every few minutes. So yeah, lots of funny moments. And while the film was a little bit guilty of, leaning on previous material and saying, hey, remember this or remember that, it was never a cheap gag. It was always in the moment and kind of reflected on what the characters were thinking or feeling. For example, when Loki walked past the Tesseract, it's a joke, but it also makes you wonder, is he going to go back and steal that thing? Who knows? So that's it, really. I had a lot of fun with this movie. And so when I came out of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I was a bit in a rush to say that it was better than Guardians Volume 1. So I don't want to do that. It's a little early. I know, how does it compare to the MCU films? Is it better than Civil War and Winter Soldier in 2017? Is it better than Logan or Wonder Woman? I'm not ready to say yes, but I am ready to go back to the theater and see it again soon. Can't wait to do it, because I got this feeling this is going to be a long time favorite of mine. It's going to be a big contender as far as top 10, top 5 comic book movies of all time, or MCU movies. I gotta see, I gotta find out. Well, what do you think? Leave it in the comment section below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you think it's one of the best MCU movies? Let me know. Like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitters and the Instagrams. It's all below. Check out my comic book, Calaca. Wrote it myself in Mexico. Stars a Mexican wrestler taking on the cartels. Get it at calacacomic.com. Also check out rasqacheart.com. Subscribe to the channel. Check out the other videos. Check out my animations and reviews. It's all going down, baby. Oh boy, oh boy. Peace.